Hello, I'm Lucy Lyon and I will be talking about horror vacui and Clares Gardens. Clares Gardens is situated between three major roads of Fitzroy Street, the Esplanade and Beach Road. During the latter half of the 20th century, Clares Gardens played host to the Aboriginal group dubbed the Parkies, as they were known to fill the St Kilda Green areas and sit about drinking and exchanging stories. The site is in close proximity to several heritage-listed properties, such as the Prince of Wales Hotel, Summerland Mansions and the Esplanade Hotel. The history of St Kilda details how Fitzroy Street has come to its current status through the phases of gentrification, bohemianism, and the Depression. During any point in time since 2010, Fitzroy Street has had a minimum of 6 vacant properties. Neighbouring Ackland Street and Carlisle Street have been able to benefit from this due to a drastic re-centralisation to the outer skirts of St Kilda. By looking at the site of Clares Gardens, we are able to see the lasting effects of unpopularity, and how, if these holes were filled, we could potentially have a bustling street life. Clares Gardens is central to 3 public transport routes, 3 roads, a bike path, and plenty of footpaths. Looking at broader St Kilda, we notice a similar pattern of underutilisation and utilisation spreading throughout all of St Kilda. This map was collated using personal information regarding experience of the area, through which was historical significance, attendance of the site, if it was a shop or public space, utility of the space, and notoriety among St Kilda locals. I decided to reflect on why I had such a sudden obsession on this vacancy that was widespread, taking a step back and looking into how mankind has developed this idea that an empty space is somehow wasted in urban planning. This fear of emptiness is called horror vacui, and it is the remnant trauma from the open plan urban design of the 1950s and 60s. Humanity has evolved to understand space as an area to be occupied by other humans, then the area is given purpose. Looking at Clares Gardens, we are able to think of plenty design interventions that will bring people to the area and fill it, for a time, for a program, for a new sculpture. From an outsider's perspective, the Clares Gardens presents an open area that gives a beautiful view to the beach and Catani Gardens, and is incredibly easily accessible and in close proximity to other hotspots within St Kilda. We can see through the efforts of the Port Phillip Council that the new urban developments do not support the desires of the community, so the community never desires to support them. The reading of the St Moritz ice skating rink along the Esplanade can now be seen as a memorial park, which is wrapped around the Novotel Hotel. The park is too small to run around, too close to a major road for dog walking, and provides a beautiful ocean view that is also available just below the public bathrooms. The more recent development of the Ackland Street precinct blocked car access to Barclay Street and reduced the number of car spaces along the busy street. This was carried out with good intention, but was protested heavily by most tenants along Ackland Street, as the development was seen as a meddling by the higher-ups in the day-to-day practice of living and travelling St Kildas. By looking at the unsuccessful urban developments within St Kilda, I opened my research to some experts in the field to see how urban spaces can be transformed. Charles Montgomery is an urban planner and author of the book Happy City, Transforming Our Lives Through Urban Design. He has spent the past 10 years speaking and interacting with people who are looking to improve the feeling of a city through the reconstruction of the urban landscape. One experiment he carried out by him and his department was an attraction walk. A bunch of subjects were included to walk throughout the Lower East Side of Manhattan along a planned route, and they were monitored for their attraction levels throughout the path. The study showed that people were far more attracted to open areas with open doors, seating outside, and more people than they were along frost glass panels of new buildings. Doesn't this look familiar? Another research project that I looked into was the work of William H. White in the social life of small urban spaces. From watching this film, I was able to gather some key points to making a successful urban space. Number 1, bring people and more people will come. 2, encourage people to stay, relax. 3, provide a stimulus to encourage triangulation, which is the interaction between strangers. Looking into how these philosophies were enacted took me to the work of Rosana Montiel, a Mexican architect who runs an all-female firm. This site within the San Pablo Zalfa district was known to locals as a hotspot for drug trafficking and gang violence. As a result, residents boarded up their windows and raised their fences, leaving the in-between spaces lackluster and home to more drug activity. Through a task force put together by Rosana, the residents were asked plenty of intimate questions, such as, What's your favourite thing to do with your husband? Where did you have your first kiss? What's your favourite memory in the area? Through this questioning, the architects were able to create an area that fulfills the wishes of the residents and open the share spaces to include a safe urban area for dancing, playing chess, relaxing in the sun between trees. This reintroduced a family neighbourhood and pushed the drug traffickers out. From this research into successful urban spaces, I was able to settle on 3 key principles that will be necessary to making Clares Gardens successful: choice, conversation, and community. Looking closer onto site, we are able to see the sporadic successful and unsuccessful lots, decreasing in popularity as we reach further and further away from St Kilda Station. By targeting the southern end of Fitzroy Street, we will be hitting the nail on the head. I went around and asked 3 different locals that I believe represented enough of St Kilda. Jackie, who works at the Galleon at the top end of Carlisle Street, believes that the landlords have had a lasting impact on the authenticity of St Kilda by letting anyone take up shop with no experience. Janine, a local resident of St Kilda for the past 30 years, believes that the St Kilda she knew is dead. The only places she sees and loves are the remnant scungy, dodgy bits. To her, these articulate the bohemian nature that St Kilda was famous for in the second half of the 20th century. Rosie, a waitress at the famous Cicciolina, believes that the true St Kilda locals know how to adapt. You can't control it, it's bad, but we're here. Let's just keep on keeping on. Taking these heeds of warning, I moved towards creating a shift in the community rather than a shift in the landscape. I began my intervention by penning a letter to Anthony Trall, the manager of Parks and Open Space for the City of Port Phillip. This letter outlined my personal curiosity into the future of the site and requested his opinion as to whether this site was ripe for development or if it's currently on the cards. This letter was an act to raise awareness within the council. The next step was to create a public petition to support a community collective that will be able to meet and discuss the future of St Kilda. This petition will outline the interests that locals could have in coming together as a community. The last step in this inquisition was to hold the first of many public events that host residents, business owners, designers and council members to meet and exchange future plans for the suburb of St Kilda. This platform allows for the public's concerns to be heard directly by the designer to bring together an intervention that pleases the public. Taking the interviewed locals' opinions as a general consensus, I moved forward to a proposal. The Summerland mansions at the southern end of site have created a consistent issue of vacancy. Through the subdivision of this land, we will be able to replicate a more open, lively corner with tenants that are able to pay a consistent rate that aligns with the portion of land they have occupied. The rent contracts will be locked in after a 20-week trial period, and after that will be determined by the public representatives. The success of this space is determined by the landlord of the Summerland mansions, and the willingness of them to understand the positive influence an activated space will have on the top residential properties. Through creating the streamlined process of discussion, criticism, and delivery, we are able to create an area that is activated through occupation without disturbing the state of Clares Gardens. Through filling a human void, we've been able to meet the demands of St Kilda locals without disturbing the peace of the gardens. Delivering a small open living space makes sense for the daydreamers of St Kilda. As long as the community is involved, the clients become the designers, using our tools to deliver their desires.